Okay, so let's go ahead and jump in. So I did a couple of things off stream. I apologize for that. I on Tuesday, we had a nice stream where we worked on some stuff and we left it and we said, okay, the next thing that we have to do is going and getting our OAuth tokens. So I'm going to show the code here in this PR. We're not going to review it here. We're going to review it in Visual Studio where it's a little bit easier to see. So I apologize. My GitHub is not in dark mode. So if I just killed everyone's eyes, sorry about that. We'll switch back to dark mode in a second. And I will zoom this in so you can see it, hopefully. So even when we're looking at this, you'll be able to take a look at this. So where we left off was we wanted to get OAuth tokens connected so that users could actually authenticate their bot. So when you are authenticating a bot, the way that it works, just a brief explanation, is you need in order for the program to log in as your account. So I have a bot that is called DevChatter bot, is a user account in Twitch. That is the account that my bot uses. When it logs in, what happens is the bot does not pass my username and password. It passes an OAuth token. Essentially what that means is think of that an OAuth token kind of like a temporary access card. So think like if you need to get through a door in a building, say at a hotel, they'll give you a card, you insert the card, or you tap it next to a thing, you just hold it near it, and yay, you can enter this room. At any point, that card's access could be removed. That card is only supposed to get used for a short period of time. Yes, exactly. With the Grumpy Game Dev, it mentions there, it's kind of like having a hall pass. And your hall pass might say that it is just for the day. And so that's what an OAuth token is. Now, with a lot of systems, the way an OAuth token will work is it'll last for like a month or some other arbitrary amount of time. Maybe 6 months, maybe it lasts a week. I don't know. It depends on your system and could change at any point from Twitch's perspective and how long that OAuth token is going to last. So I don't think we have any guarantees in writing that they'll make them work for X amount of time. Doesn't matter. When you receive the OAuth token, you're actually given the expiration date, so you could keep track of that and refresh it if you need to, basically re-upping your access. What we need to do, though, is we need to obtain that key. So we don't have a room key in our program to start with because we don't know what account you use. I have mine that I can log into, but I don't know yours. So in order for my program to log in with your bot's user account, we need you to type in a username and password. When you do that, we send that information out to Twitch. Well, really what we do is we send you to Twitch. You give Twitch your username and password and tell them essentially, I want to give this access to the DevChatter bot. I should say give the DevChatter bot's account access to this. Now, I will show you all how that is set up by jumping over onto the Twitch site. So you see that part. So if I hop over onto Twitch, you'll see that I went to the dev console on Twitch and I created a bot, an application called OneBot by DevChatter. That's currently the name I'm using for it, and I told it that it's going to connect at this address, and so that's the address that it's going to send the token back. So when the user authenticates, they will be sent back to localhost 1111. I can change that, obviously. That's just the one that I chose, and that will actually set them up with the token. So when we receive the token, they send it to us, and we need to record it. So that's the step that we're on right now. But let's walk through how all this happens, because I couldn't resist, and I went and worked on this yesterday. Youngblood, welcome, greetings. Welcome to the stream. Man, the swoog is strong this morning. Also, Valve Stater, I don't think I said hi to you. Welcome. Greetings. Welcome, everyone. Apoc Dev, hello, hello. Yeah, there goes your vision for the rest of the day. Greetings, Simon. Will the custom scripts for Streamlab chatbot work in this one? Dumpster, yes, that is absolutely the plan. We fully intend for those to work over here. That is on the short list. Octocon, welcome, greetings. Okay, so this is the essentially the response that we get from Twitch. So when a user authenticates from Twitch, they'll give us an access token, the scope, the state, and the token type. So the token type is essentially them just telling us that this is an OAuth token, it's going to be a bearer token, and we're going to use it. The access token, this is the like super secret like key card. This is the key card. This is the keys that let us in, that allow us to use their account. So this is the value that we really do not want to accidentally show on stream ever. The scope is the the scope is going to be a list of the permissions that token has. So the access token comes with a set of permissions, effectively. Yes, exactly. It's which doors you can get in. Precisely. Wording is difficult in this. So that could be like that you can read chat. It might be things like access who the user is following. You might want to be able to see... you might want to be able to take moderation actions and other things like that. So those are the types of scope changes that you would have. So moderation actions, if your bot is going to be like timing users out or watching for bad stuff like that, then having scope to be able to moderate is important. If all your chatbot is going to do is to just watch chat and respond to it, and take action based on it, you may only need the chat read permission. This also is whether or not you can read whispers. So that type of stuff is in there. That's true. Scope is minty fresh. So the state is a special one. This is actually just a token that we set. The state is a way for you to tell. It's kind of like a transaction identifier that you can both keep track of. So you give them the state and expect to get the same state back. So in our case, we're just sending them a brand new GUID, and we expect to get the same GUID back. If we don't get that same GUID back, then something likely nefarious is going on. So that is sort of a way of doing like a handshake. So that prevents us from receiving a token from someone that we didn't request. So the idea is we essentially, when we call out to them, we say like, hey, when you respond back to me, tell me this password. And they'll come back to us and say that password. And that's basically what this value is. Okay. The next thing that we did, I sort of talked about our data protection stuff on the last stream. This is the code that we're going to use to encrypt that token so that we don't lose it. And essentially all this does is just take it from, like, take the key and just kind of hide it so that people can't read the key. So if we were to store this somewhere and someone got access to it, it's a little bit harder for them to know what that key is and use it. So makes it a little bit safer. Isn't there a diagram of this? Diagram of which thing, Sky Hoshi? Couple of other things. As part of my implementation, I included Mediator. We were planning on using that in our project anyway, so I've just included it early, and I will explain how we have that set up. I added a settings file to keep track of the... this is our salt. We talked about security and how salts work in the last stream a little bit. If you missed that, by the way, there are videos of our previous streams. You can go take a look at those. I added the infrastructure Twitch project last time, and we added TwitchLib into it. And then this is the client ID for my application. This is not a value that needs to be kept secure. This is just the ID of my application. It is not the client secret. It is not an OAuth token. In fact, anyone that runs this program is going to need that value in order for it to connect. Welcome, Freaker. Thank you for that follow, much appreciated. Welcome to the stream. Isn't there a diagram? The OAuth process and flow, yes. So Sky Hoshi, there are a number of diagrams that will go over the OAuth process and how that works, the authentication process. So if people do want more follow-up on that, of how the authentication with Twitch works through OAuth and how OAuth works in general, all of that information is out there on the internet in a lot of places, and we'll explain multiple versions of it. Because one thing that there are some naive approaches to it that can be very dangerous. So even what we're doing here is not the safest, because usually what you want to do is be authenticating to a remote location, and then that remote is actually doing the connection with the OAuth token. But in our case, since we don't have like a web server application, it's hosted locally anyway. So because you are running your website, there is a website in this locally, that website is local anyway. So you're actually losing one layer of security there, but it's really not a big concern. Welcome, C Films. Okay. So these are the scopes that I mentioned. The scopes were like which permissions, which doors you wanted to open. These are the doors we said that we wanted to open. We may ask for more, actually, because our bot is intended to be able to use some things. We also might change this so that... yes, exactly. As the Grumpy Game Dev, if you understand claims... If you understand claims-based authentication, scopes are the claims that we're asking for. We're asking which claims we want. So we're saying that we want to be able to edit whispers, read chat, edit chat. We want to be able to, and edit, by the way, means like we could. So editing a whisper means I can send a whisper to someone. Editing chat means I can send out chat messages. Moderate means I could time someone out, delete their message, or ban someone from the chat, things like that. This is seeing the subscriptions to the channel. This is seeing the hype train information. That is being able to play commercials, and this is being able to see information about bits. So we may end up needing more permissions, depending on what other features we need to support from other bots. But this, I thought, was a good starting point of scopes that we could request. The request that actually goes out to Twitch to get that auth token is right here. For our get URL, we just sub in the client ID, the redirect URL. We always want to get the access token. We send out which scopes we want, and we pass in what our state value is. Remember, that's the value that they're passing back to us. It's like the secret password we're using. We did the Twitch chatbot on stream last time. We set up just the basic Twitch chatbot, but again, it didn't have the auth token, so it couldn't log in. And I changed some stuff in the UI, which we'll have a look at together. I put in a couple of samples that we'll take a look at when we see it. And did I change anything? I changed a couple of structures of things that I will get into over in Visual Studio. We added in a controller that is actually what is going to grab the auth data. So this is where we get the auth data. It is posted into this spot. There's one extra step that I have to do that's a little bit weird. We wired up our startup last time, and that's about it. Okay, let's make that not way zoomed in anymore and jump over to Visual Studio. So, excellent. Should those not be dynamically defined based on the capabilities of the configured plugin? Exactly, Simon. That is the plan. So what we're going to do is we are going to make it so that whatever the plugins require, you are going to need the union of all of the permissions that all of your plugins require. However, there are a couple that are just going to be default needed. For example, being able to read chat is just straight up always going to be required. We're always going to require that you can read chat. I can't think of a scenario for the bot where you wouldn't want to be able to read chat. So that one we're getting, regardless. But yes, the rest of them are going to be a union of that, and I have thought through some of that process already. So the plan is we're going to need to store the scopes that you obtained with that access token so that when you add a new module, if it requires a scope that your OAuth token does not already provide, then we will need to ask for we'll need to tell the user, hey, we need you to re-auth, essentially. So we will get rid of their auth and make them authentic. Like, we'll disconnect them and be like, hey, you need to go and do this now. So if you try to turn on a module that requires more scopes than you need, we'll make them get a new token. So I believe that that has to be a manual operation. If you are doing less, I think we can do it without them. I think. I'm pretty sure that the Twitch API will allow you to reduce the amount that the amount of scopes that your token has access to. So if they remove a module, I think we can limit our own access. But I'm not 100% on that APOC dev. I have not tried it yet. And I haven't tried any of those like module adding pieces yet because we don't have those. So when Simon's like, should we be basing that on that? The short answer is yes, but for now, let's build some of the more basic features with it just hard-coded, and there essentially is a to-do to break that out into definitely a more complex approach. Nicer for the user, but definitely more complex. Okay, so I should run this so everybody can see what the program is, what it does, how it works. Again, remember, we're just connecting the authentication piece now, so that means that this does not currently connect to chat and is mostly just a placeholder for what is going to be here. I started with this placeholder because I wanted to be able to show our community and everybody involved here what it is we're building. Yes. Yep. No, you are totally correct, Simon. That is a to-do. Okay. So, basics of this program. We're just doing a simple, just tabbed view, essentially, with a little hamburger menu for more details. The first part is just chat. So if you had people chatting, they would be sending messages in here, and that would give you your chat list. Obviously, as a user, if I send messages in here, the intention is that those are going to appear up above in that box, but then also be over in the actual Twitch chat, because it should actually send those. And anything you type would also show up in here. So this is just, so if you need to send a message as the bot, if we're already connected to chat, why not give you a chat view? So that's all we have here. This does not yet have moderation or anything like that. That's in the plan. Okay. For all the basic commands, and for anyone that asked about the Streamlabs chatbot, for example, has a simple command structure as well. So does Nightbot, so does MooBot. They all have one. Our plan is this. We are going to have our own form of these, where you put in your command and whatever you want to do. We're going to have just a drop-down picker here, either somewhere towards the end that basically says like what format it's in. So if, for example, you wanted to import all of your commands from Streamlabs chatbot, when you add a new one, you could just say, hey, this came from Streamlabs chatbot, and we will convert all of your essentially, when you add it in, you can type it in doing the Streamlabs chatbot version, and we will translate that into whatever format we use for all of our parameterized commands. So that way you don't lose anything, and you can just essentially give us the data in whatever format you have it. So if you're coming from another chatbot, we'll just import it and support any commands that you already use. The same is going to go for our plugins or modules or custom scripts or whatever you want to call these things. So you can also, and many people do this, build full custom modules and plugins for a number of bots. The example that I'm going to give is I wrote a Python custom script for someone that uses Streamlabs chatbot for him to be able to do like this bidding war among his chat that could use bits or donations or anything else in order to be able to do that. If he wants to switch over to using this bot, we're going to allow him to do that by just making him tell us what kind of custom script it is, and then we will essentially still call that code with the correct data at the correct time, and it will just respond to that. So we will not be like translating these, because this is translating full code, which is not something that I want to get into. That is not worth doing, and in fact, I think it is a mistake, because we want the developers of those plugins, modules, custom scripts to be able to continue developing them, and either be developing them like for our bot, still working for the one it was originally created for, so that development works for both of them, and doesn't take away from that. We don't want to like steal people away from that. So if you know someone that builds a custom script for some other bot, and you're like, well, I don't want to use that bot too, this is an answer for that. So most streamers I know run a lot of different bots. We have a few people in here from Swoog's stream, and Swoog, I think, uses like 4 or 5 bots when he's streaming, and so the idea is he probably doesn't want to run 4 or 5 bots. He'd probably rather run 1 or 2. And so this is our answer to that. The Toddfather, also, welcome, greetings. Hype, and hi. C-Films, hello. Doing pretty well here. Welcome to the stream, everyone. Yes, Swooglab bots. Yes, there are lots of greetings, Icy Black Deep. Too many bots. Hey, Siggy, welcome. Yep, that is one of the problems, is there are a lot of bots, and so the goal of this one is to reduce the number of bots that you have at any given time. So, okay. The piece that we just wired up that I do not want to show actually on stream, I don't want to show it actually happening on stream, I should say, is this. This is where we do the authentication, and you can generate a new token for your bot by clicking this button. Or alternately, if you happen to have your own OAuth token that you want to use that you created somewhere else, we will allow you to do that. But if you do, we make you enter the data manually. It's not the preferred route, so I kind of want to like hide this button away, make it less appealing. So one of the like UX design things that is really important, that I'm violating right here, and I know I'm violating, I was just shoving these on there just to make this screen work, is when you see these buttons, enter manually is actually the more prominent one, but the path I want most people to take is to generate a new one. So I need to make this button like bigger, brighter, more obvious, like, you know, give a lot of contrast to it, and make enter manually be just this, you know, faded in the background. Yeah, if you really, really want to do this, you can enter it manually. Yeah, so we could do a drop-down button, for example, as APOC Dev is suggesting, where the default option is generate new that you just click, and the other one you'd have to like drop down and choose to enter manually, which is a nice way of just hiding that one away. Okay, so I'm not going to authenticate that just yet, because I don't want to show that token from my account, because it will appear on screen for a moment, and I am not that foolish. I know what Twitch chat will do if I show my OAuth token on screen. I mentioned our community is one of the friendlier ones. Like we do not have a bunch of trolls in here that are actually going to do anything nefarious with it, but at the same time, they would probably have fun. They probably wouldn't use it to buy Bitcoin, but yes, exactly. They'll DDoS the. Good try, Icy Black Deep. Good try. For anyone that missed that, Icy Black Deep was trying to hope that I didn't notice the word black showing up in chat, because if I miss that in chat, all of these lights turn off. I don't have any protection from people typing in any color they want in there. Also, welcome, leading lady. And no, I don't think anyone's going to DDoS us here. Please don't. Please don't. Ooh, cornflower blue is nice. I like that one a lot. Okay, let's go ahead and dig into some of this stuff that we did. So, first thing, I set up a www root folder in our project. You might be laughing right now because I have a www root in my Windows desktop app, which is just funny. So, because I'm using the Windows desktop SDK, that the SDK is actually what determines which tooling I get in Visual Studio. If I were using the web SDK up here, instead of this, ASP.NET's tooling would kick in instead, and this www root would look like the www root in a web project, and it would have like the globe little icon and everything. Teal. Chartreuse, what? Eee. Yes, exactly. Yep. Is it bring back the old XNA days? Oh yeah, APOC Dev. What's wrong with XNA? I remember that. I haven't. Man, I'm trying to think of how old XNA is. For people that don't know, XNA was actually one of the ways that you could build games using like C#. Oh, XNA's default background was cornflower blue. Ah, that's why it came up. Yeah. Lime is good too. It's similar to what we just had up there. Okay, so we get that data and we send it to Mediator with our access token received. Does anything reference this? Have I built a thing that does it? I have not. Okay. So here's the deal. This gets used in one place, and one place only as far as I know. So right here, we have a mediator action that takes our authentication token, and it sends it through Mediator. So this is a perfect opportunity for me to explain Mediator to everyone here who has not used it before. So Mediator, spelled the way it is in here, this media T and then capital R. Yes, very, very developer name for that right there. Sorry, Stolpenner, that bot is turned off right now. So Mediator is it is an implementation of the Mediator pattern, which will kind of explain when I explain how Mediator works. So when our application starts up, Mediator gets registered in our IOC container. So let's hop over to our startup. So we say, inside of our configure services, we say services add mediator type of startup. The couple of things that we're doing here are this. Mediator is going to register, when you call this, all of the implementations of the iRequest, the iNotification, the iNotification handler, as well as the iRequest handler. And there are probably I think there are some other types that it will be registering as well, but it is automatically going to register all the implementations of these types that it finds in the same assembly as whatever type we specified there. So that type of startup said, look for all the implementations of this in the same assembly as the startup. Notice when I mouse over this, it's kind of small, so I apologize about this, but the method takes an array of types, and it's a Params Array. Again, I'll do a quick explanation of that. Params Array basically means that this is an array, that just gets created on the fly. So I don't need to say like new array. It just means however many items I typed in at this point is treated as an array. So it's like a language construct that takes a series of arguments and turns them into an array. So if I needed to get things from a few different assemblies, I could specify those here and it would wire them up for me. Okay. Actually, I slightly said that wrong. Yes, variable length parameters is another name for them in some other languages. Yep. You do not know the number of parameters. Yep, var args in some languages as well. It's always going to be the last. If it is a parameter, it's either the only parameter or it's the last parameter. And you can pass a variable number of arguments to that parameter, and it automatically makes an array out of it. Okay. I said something wrong. I want to correct. When I said that this registered the handlers, it registers the I said that it registers the iRequest, iNotification, iRequest handler, and iNotification handler. It does not do that. It does not register these two. It registers these two that are designed to handle these. So let me explain. By creating the one we're missing. So I created access token received, and essentially we send this. So if you look at what we do, we down here say mediator send that. Now what's nice about this is our controller doesn't need to know whether or not this is going to some service, or what it is that it's calling. It has no idea. It's like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this. I don't care. I received an access token. Let me tell the application and just say, hey, application, this is the access token we just received. Can you please do something with this? Because I don't know what I'm supposed to do with it. And this is basically our way of saying, someone else take responsibility for this, because it's certainly not my job. Because it is not the job of a web controller to even think about what it's supposed to do with an access token. That's not its responsibility. So yes, CQRS, as APOC Dev is mentioning, is kind of what it is. This is the mediator pattern, which is very similar to that. We're not going through like a messaging service or something like that, but it is similar. They're related. Okay, so we need a handler for this. The couple of places that I could think of to put it, the handler itself is not going to have dependencies. It is going to understand the fact that we do authentication, and that authentication is through an OAuth token. And I now need to decide where to put it. I think core auth makes sense, which would actually put it right next to the access token received. So let's go ahead and do that. So we'll do a public class called access token recorder, maybe. That seems reasonable to me. Access token recorder. I kind of get what that's doing. It's really syntactic sugar for an array that gets called like a variable args but doesn't look that way in a called collect. Yes, exactly. Yep, it's just language syntax that that lets you call it without doing any without having to do the creation of the array beforehand. It's very convenient. Okay, so what do we need to set up? We need to set up iRequest handler of type access token received with a response of bool, because access token received returns a bool. So this should create tasks that do that. Notice they're not async. There's a reasonable chance that I'm going to forget to make it async. That or we won't end up awaiting anything or something like that. What did I do for my Twitch authentication? States. I really saved that as a string? Add state is the string of the GUID. Okay, that's fine. So I made this as a list, but I might make this a hash set. I think that's going to make more sense. Sorry, chat. I'll explain why in a moment. So, you'll remember I mentioned that I want them to tell me that they have... so, that state value is basically like our secret handshake. It's our password that we're saying, like, hey, Twitch, I want an access token, but I want you, when you tell me that access token, to say, I don't know, let's look around the room and find something. I don't know, yellow fidget spinner. So you're gonna say yellow fidget spinner when you send me back this authentication token. And so if you don't say that, then I'll know the message came from someone else. And so the idea is that I need to know that it really is you responding back to me correctly and not someone else. Yeah, exactly. Kind of like that. I'm gonna say Marco, you say Polo. So like, this is our secret handshake. You know, we're like spies meeting in the park, and you gotta get the password right so that we know that we're the correct people talking. In this case, I'm just giving them the password, and they're sending it back to me. So this is what I need to check: is what's the state. So let's start off by scopes 2, so you're not duplicating? Is there something I'm going to need to do with scopes that I'm forgetting about? I don't think there is. Because we should only need one OAuth token. I guess we could request a different OAuth token for different stuff, but we should just use like one superset of scopes OAuth token. All right. So let's do state state matches equals Tor Twitch Twitch. Why do I not have Twitch authentication? Where did I put that? Infra Twitch. Okay, so we're going to make this interface. So the challenge I just ran into, for a quick explanation for chat, I wanted to pass in Twitch authentication right here, but Twitch authentication is not in the core of our project, so I can't do it. The options I'm left with: I can either move the access token recorder into the infrastructure project, along with where I've got the Twitch authentication class, or I could move the Twitch authentication class over into the core of the project. If I don't want to do that, I can alternately create an interface and put that in there. Is there anything about this that's infrastructure, really? I don't... It's debatable. I don't... because I've said that we're treating Twitch not as a separate thing. You don't want to define chat read twice in your scopes? APOC Dev, what do you mean define it twice in my scopes? You made the state hash set. You should make scopes a hash set as well. Oh, yes. Yes, you're right. For when we get to the point where we're unioning them, you're absolutely correct. We should probably make this a hash set of string instead of an array of string. And challenge is we do have to do that if we're going to do it. So later on, this will be getting created by another process, and it would be able to get rid of that for us. The challenge then is that we then need to array that there in order to pass it. So making it something a hash set. Primer on hash sets for everyone. So if you've used a dictionary before in C#, that is kind of like the keys are almost... So a hash set is basically a way of checking to see if you have a key at that dictionary location. Is kind of a way to think about it. And a dictionary is actually storing it. So the hash set basically says this is a unique list, is kind of the idea. So whatever these values are, they are going to be unique in this set. So if you try to add a duplicate one, you can't add a duplicate one because you'll just be adding to... because the one that's already there is already there. They have the same value. So you don't get to add a new one. So if I added chat read 5 times, doesn't matter, there's still only one chat read in there. Since we were just hard coding them for now, making it a hash set's really only protecting against ourselves, and this is more just future proofing because we know we're going to generate this later. So that's what the suggestion was from APOCDev. It's only using base types or .NET Framework types. It's good to move on. Yes, exactly, Simon. Yep, that's kind of what I was thinking. So that's why I started to make the interface, and then I was like, or I could just move it and not worry about it. Grumpy Game Dev, you are correct. We could run into a problem if we messed up the casing in them. I was under the impression that all of these were going to be lowercase all the time. So you are right, Grumpy Game Dev, we could hit that problem. Greetings and welcome, C# Fritz and friends. Welcome to the stream. Wow, we need some defenses. DevChatter L and DevChatter R. Welcome everyone. Welcome. Greetings. Thank you, thank you, Fritz, and all of his friends over there for coming into the stream. Today we are talking about this. We are building a new chatbot here on the stream that is designed to be essentially a module-driven bot that is very plugin focused. So we have built a number of chatbots here on the stream, and we want to make it so that all of those can just use this one. Welcome C# Fritz and Coding Squad. So we are doing a little bit of C#, some WPF. APOCDev, congratulations. Thank you, Stoolpenner, for passing a sub to APOCDev and to Dumpster Player. And to Strife. Awesome. Thank you, Stoolpenner. Much appreciated. Glad to see those getting spread around to the community. And Strife. My hair is getting too long for this. I need to get a haircut. Silly not going to haircutting places. Fritz, what were you working on? And friends, what were you all working on today? I kind of saw a bit of the stream. MaroDev, welcome. Thank you for that follow. Much appreciated. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to DevChatter. My name is Brendan. If you are one of the new people coming in, we're a channel that usually does C# programming. We've been around for 2.5 years programming stuff, and we are hitting our stride again. We took a little bit of time where we were limiting our number of streams because let's just say I was working like 60-hour weeks for a while there due to having multiple clients and some of them ramping up their time. And as an independent consultant, it's kind of hard to, justify spending additional hours streaming when you're doing that much client work. But welcome, everyone. Welcome to the stream. We are a fairly friendly community. I didn't see anybody say what it was Fritz was working on his stream. I did miss that this morning. But we were just explaining to everyone why I used a hash set for our set of scopes and why I used a hash set for our set of states, essentially explaining that a hash set is a collection where it's going to essentially hash the value to try and be sure that there is only one of any given item in the set, and it's basically a way of checking, do you have this item? And just let me know if you have it. And if you don't, you can also like add it to the collection and things like that. But it is not able to have any duplicates. So, for example, if I already have bits read in the collection, I try to add it again, it will not add it again because it found one was already there. So it's a good way of making sure that you have like the concise set of data, no duplicates. Ancient Coder, yes, we are back to our old schedule. So we are doing Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. Mondays and Tuesdays at 2, Thursdays we start at noon, and on Saturdays we start at 1. Those are all in Eastern time. So if you want the UTC time, all you have to do is, so they're Eastern time in the US, so what that'll get you is 1800 UTC on Mondays and Tuesdays, 1600 UTC on Thursdays, and 1700 UTC on Saturdays. So you can also find the schedule down below the stream in the panels, as well as links to our Discord and other stuff, YouTube channel, GitHub, etc. So far on this project, just to give the quick background, I was changing this stuff and I didn't actually finish it. Okay, so let me do my couple of includes here, just so that this does build, and then I'll show you what the application was. I was just changing a namespace when you all came in, and was changing that too. That's exactly where I was writing code, was right there. And that's when I realized I needed to go and mess with this. So what we are working on is we have scaffolded an application. That's what I was just adding. So we've scaffolded our application for the most part right now, but we have not wired in all the functionality. Someone might ask, why did you scaffold it first? And the short answer is I was planning on showing this to the stream and saying, here's what I want to build. And generally, if you want to get let people understand what it is you're trying to build, you better have some kind of visual. So I was either going to make a bunch of sketches for what we were going to do, or just hop into WPF and just throw all the pieces together. So as we're building a WPF.NET Core 3.1 application, so again, that does mean that this is like the new .NET Core stuff. Our plan is to eventually maybe look into using Maui for this, but for now it is .NET Core and WPF. This is our chatbot. We were just about to connect it to Twitch so that we could actually have real chat. This is our fake chat right now, which will record anything I type in here, but those messages obviously didn't show up in our channel. We're going to have custom commands here. This is the secret sauce awesome piece. This is where we're going to import in plugins. Yes, exactly. Musical Bookworm, thanks for that follow, much appreciated. And Apoc Dev, exactly. Look, it looks done, so it's clearly done. Yes, you do need to be cautious. We warned everyone about this when I said I was starting the project this way. You need to be careful about showing this to clients this way, or to anyone in a business type position, because there are a lot of people that will see an application that looks like it works, even if it doesn't actually do the stuff behind the scenes. Because I wired up the UI, so you can go in here and you can type, whatever you want in there. You can say that it's 2.0.0. Look, we're on version 2, and it's in our, super awesome folder, and it's using the Python script. Right, so I can add content to this, and it looks like it's working, and it is kind of working, but it's just the UI. We're not this isn't adding in a module yet. So we're going to connect to chat, and then the next thing we're going to do once we get chat going is start building the custom commands. Once we have the custom commands, all the tokenization and everything like that in place, then we can start adding in additional formats. So that's where the big piece comes in. We want to make this so that any commands that you wrote for your Nightbot, for your MooBot, for your Streamlabs chatbot, for your old AnkBot, whatever commands it is that you have, or maybe you find on the internet, you're like, is there a command that does this or a game that does that? And you find one and you're like, oh, that's cool. Okay, now I need to figure out how to do that in my bot. We're not going to make you do that. We're going to let you import it from whatever type of bot's lingo it's got for how it does its custom commands. And then we'll just put that in with whatever type you wanted. If you found a plugin because someone built some really awesome, maybe they made a slot machine that you thought was really, really cool, and you were like, I want that slot machine in my bot. And they wrote it as a module for some other bot, and you're like, well, okay, cool. I'll just import that, and we'll run it in the in this bot. And so that is the idea. Coolest slot machine ever. Yes. I think there's literally a slot machine in just about every chatbot that's out there. So, and then these are obviously just placeholders. Our authentication is running through this separate window here that will let you authenticate both a bot account as well as the user account. We may do some additional authentications later, but for now we're just, letting you authenticate into 2 accounts. And by letting you authenticate, I mean it does the round trip and brings back the auth token, but we don't store it, which is the step we're on right now. So that's what we're about to do. Stonehenge, welcome. Thanks for that follow. Much appreciated. Welcome to the stream. So that is where we are. I wanted to show this so you could see what it is we're building. So we did a bunch of the UI to begin with because I wanted to be able to show chat and hopefully get some people excited, because I know a handful of users in our chat that would like to get involved and would like to see this actually become essentially a bot they can use in their own channels. So the first bot that we built on this stream 2.5 years ago was designed mostly as a bot for this channel, and that's part of the problem. Like, we built one that's for this channel, which is kind of silly. We should put most of our effort in a bot into building this, in my opinion, that is essentially like a bot, but a bot that anyone that wants to customize and do their own stuff and choose what they want can just pick and put together whatever they want into it. So that's the idea. Now the team is engaged in whether we should use a mandatory code formatter and whether the chosen candidate is good. Oh, Fuel Snable, that's going to be fantastic conversation. I will actually say that I'm a big fan of having just automated code formatting tools that just do some basic stuff that everyone's just running, because then if it's not the way that you normally format things, but you're fine with it being that way and you can read it, it's okay, because the automated code formatter just does it, so you don't have to worry about doing it the right way. You just write it however you want. When you click save, it automatically formats it, and yay. So if you keep messing it up, it doesn't matter because it automatically fixes it. So you don't have to worry about it. I like those because if it's not my format, then I don't have to think about what the correct one is, because I can read code regardless of what format it's in. Like, that doesn't make a huge difference. For example, if I'm on teams that do tabs versus spaces arguments, I sit there and I'm like, okay, just pick one. I don't care. And then I'll just switch the tooling to use one or the other. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They're the same. Okay, so let's go ahead and wire this up. So here's where we were when people showed up. Twitch authentication. So when we set up Mediator, that little step that we did here and we just said add Mediator, I told you that it automatically registers the iRequest handlers. So it is automatically going to register this because it is going to find this when I tell it to look in core. So it is not currently looking in core, but we're going to tell it to, so it looks there. And it will automatically wire this up. When it does that, that means it's going to get IOC. This class is also registered with our container, so it's automatically going to get passed in here. And that means that I can save this right there. Twitch authentication is like, it's our class that is just keeping track of the authentications that we're doing. It's essentially like just watching to see, like, okay, I sent out this auth and I'm just waiting to hear back kinds of things. And it's the class that keeps track of what URL we're supposed to be calling for the authentication and things like that. So it's just kind of like a holder of the things you need to do Twitch authentication is kind of the idea. Your personal preference is no automatic code format, but I don't care what the outcome is, but there are people that care a lot, thus the popcorn. Yeah, exactly. Programming arguments among teams are ridiculous. It's one of those, like, if someone's got strong opinions, cool, go with it, whatever. Like, if someone really wants tabs or spaces, awesome. If someone really wants curlies on their own line or a separate line, fine. If someone wants their JavaScript to not have semicolons or to have semicolons, cool. It doesn't affect me. I can go either way on that. Michael, I agree completely. It is crazy how much time actually gets spent arguing on formatting of stuff. The only thing is that I do think that it is important that you try to be consistent among a team, because it is difficult to read code where the rules are changing and there's different formatting all over the place, and it does make it a little bit harder. And if you mix tabs and spaces, which is the only case for tabs and spaces that I say is bad, it gets weird when you're viewing it on, like, GitHub, and it can't line up the code because it's tabs and ugh. Yeah. Tabs are greater than spaces, and spaces are greater than tabs. Yes. And popcorn is very tasty. I think your brain is damaged. You translate the code to expression trees and you don't even see the text. Oh yeah, well there you go. I don't even see the code anymore. I just see blonde, brunette, redhead. Sorry, we jumped into Matrix there for a minute. Okay, so I said that we wanted to check and see that the state matched. Now, I'm not going to check that the exact state matched. I'm just going to check that the states includes this one. So I'm just going to say, does this contain... Wow, really? I can do that. Contains? That's funny. Request state. So, I described the state as like the secret handshake that we tell the OAuth about. So we tell Twitch, hey, when you come back to me with this OAuth token that I'm requesting, make sure you say the password when you come back to me. And this is them telling me the password. So I'm going to make sure that they told me the correct password when they came back with this data. And this is just like one tiny step to just make sure that they really... That this is not like some nefarious request that I'm just suddenly receiving. So someone can't just send us data and be like, hey, yeah, authenticate with this. Yes, so Stoolpenner, you are absolutely correct. The one argument that makes tabs better than spaces that I think is like a valid case is the fact that you can control the tab size by dev in Visual Studio, because you can adjust the number of spaces. So if you want a tab to be about 3 spaces or 2 or 4 or 8 or 6, whatever you want to adjust it, you are welcome to do that in your Visual Studio if you're using tabs. Whereas if you're in spaces, you can't really adjust the size of spaces. So that's one of the cases against using spaces. So it doesn't really matter though, if everyone uses the same one. So yes, that is true. And it's also not difficult to switch if you ever need to. There are many choices. Most of them are kind of bad and unsupported. Raspberry. A raspberry? What color? Did that disappear? What happened? Where'd my lights go? Really? Yes, how many spaces is a tab? Hang on 1 second, chat. This is highly important. Very, very important. Is the page? No. What happened? Let me... chat, I gotta reload my bot. Super important. These lights. I can't control the lights. What's going on? Maybe it needs a new Auth token. That actually might be it, funny enough. Just to make sure that no windows are on the screens before I do that. There we go. Okay, needed a refresh there. All right, so funny enough, the same type of code that does this is also what we're doing right now. So all I actually had to do so I think my token must have expired or something like that, because I tried refreshing the bot that manages these lights, and it was reconnecting into chat but not completely. And so something I happen to know from having worked with the Twitch auth for like a decent amount of time is that it's a bit finicky about stuff. Is raspberry a color that it knows about? It knows about antique white and cornflower blue, right? No, I think the token must have just expired. So yeah, okay, we have control of the lights again. It's important that we have that. So we've had that color switching for a long time now. Oh, hot pink. There you go. Thanks, APOC Dev. Okay, so this is getting wired up. We have our authentication. We're going to check and see that we actually have access to that state change. And then once we do that and we say yes, this really is the message that we got back. Now I want to say that the request token type to do constant or enum this bearer. So we want a bearer token. That's actually what gets used by Twitch's authentication right now. What I can't remember is whether they need the OAuth bit on it. Let me open up one of my other projects real fast and have a look at my Twitch Twitch settings, access token, where it gets used here in the connection. When you create the connection credentials, does it pass it in with OAuth? Takes the credentials, passes it in. Okay, what version of TwitchLib is that on? What version of TwitchLib are we on? Whoops, TwitchLib 311, 301. It's possible it changed. Let me check another one. See if I have one with a more recent version of TwitchLib. What do you do if it doesn't match, especially when there's no UI listening, as it's a web callback triggering this? We will switch back to the UI to let the UI know. We can switch back and let it know, because we can. The web host is getting it, but we can still get onto the UI thread to let it know about this change. Twitch 3.1. Okay. Twitch settings. I'm going to check how Interactive 7 passes the token. So what I can't remember is whether or not we need to prefix this token with OAuth at the beginning. If we need to add that when we send it to Twitch, I'd like to add it now before we save it, instead of adding it in before we send to Twitch. It doesn't really make a big difference. So... but then when we go to actually auth this access token, the chatbot, does it remove it? Yes, it does. There it is. Okay. So I think in the newer versions of TwitchLib, they actually want that removed. So we are going to leave it out. So I will not prefix with OAuth. We will just save it as is. So that means in our code here, we need to save that value to something. For now, I guess we can make it save to our ooh, we have two. We need to remember which one we just got. Yeah, so APOC dev, isn't it already there as part of the token response? So what we receive back in the token response, I believe, does not have the OAuth prefix, APOC dev. I think this is just straight the access token itself without the OAuth :prefix. And I think that the current version of TwitchLib that this is running, because I was just checking with Interactive 7, which intentionally removes that, I believe that this version of TwitchLib adds that in itself. So we're going to leave it out. What do you do if it doesn't match? Especially, I already answered that question. You know what I need to do? I need to change how Twitch authentication works. States is not a hash set. It's a dictionary now. It's a dictionary, and it's a dictionary of an enum. And that enum is oops. It's an enum, it's an authentication I'm gonna say type, but that's not right. And we're gonna say Twitch bot equals 1 and Twitch streamer equals 2. Okay, so we have authentication type in the states now. When we add this, so we say get the URL, we need to say get the URL for the specific one. I think bot is the one that we wired up right now, so let's make that a parameter as authentication type. So this should have gotten called by, this was by both. Okay. So yes, enum or enum if you prefer, or I don't know what other variants there might be of that. Okay, so authentication type needs to be a property that is on this and is overridden. So that tells me that this needs an abstract, one of these. A protected abstract property, I think. Where do I want to put it? Guess I'll put it right before this for now. Authentication type, auth type, abstract, and it is protected. So it is a protected abstract auth type, which now we should have 2 compiler errors because the enum, yes, the Canadian version of it. Sure, why not? Canadian. If a Canadian actually wanted to call it that, I'm totally cool with it. If an American wants to call it that, sure, why not? If a European wants to call it that, sure, okay. Whatevs. Alright, so this one is TwitchBot. And let's go to the other one, which is the streamer. And we're going to make this Twitch streamer. So that is authentication for the streamer and authentication for the bot. And then I believe I had that set to pass in. So over here, it says contains, but we actually just want to say contains key. So we're going to check to see if it contains key. That tells us that it matches. And if it does, that means at this point, we know that request.state is good. Now, what I actually should be doing is this. So there's a nice little extension method that got added into dictionaries. I don't think this is available in... I don't think that this is available if you're in .NET Standard, but if you're in .NET Core or .NET Framework, you have. Akira, welcome. Thanks for that follow. Much appreciated. Welcome to the stream. So, try get value has an extension method that... So try get value is the old way. And this will attempt to get the key and return back a Boolean depending on if it worked or not. Alternately, you can do a get value or default. If you do a get value or default, you'll try to get it and check to see if the value is null. If we do a try get value, it will tell us with a Boolean whether or not it worked. To be honest, I think I'm going to do the try get. So request dot state. And we will out that into our authentication type, auth type. Because I don't mind try methods. They're not the nicest, but they're not terrible either. Okay, so that will get us all wired up there. There was a court ruling saying that sorry is not an admission of guilt in Canada. I mean, I don't think a sorry should be an admission of guilt anywhere, to be honest. Anyone can apologize, and sorry doesn't mean, you know, sorry I did the thing, because it can be, I'm sorry you had to go through that, or I'm, you know, like, when someone says, I'm sorry for your loss, if you had a loved one that passed away, they're not admitting guilt. They did not just say, I'm sorry I killed... I mean, they died of natural, non-poisoning causes. You know, like, they're not saying that. I mean, that's just silly. Alright. Actually, we'll leave that there for a second because we don't have the correct ending to this yet. Okay, so this gets us our auth type. So our auth type needs to be one of those valid auth types. Most apologies are actually, I'm sorry that you feel that way. Yeah, Grumpy Game Dev. Yes, some people mean it that way, which is the one that I dislike, is when people are like, that I wish people could just generally care about other people. I have to remind a lot of my friends more often than I wish that you'll get through life a lot happier if you always assume the best in everyone. Just assume that someone meant something in a nice way and things like that, unless you can't. But yeah, like plenty of times we know the person didn't mean it in a nice way. Yeah, we all wish everyone were just nicer. I wish everyone were just nicer to everyone else. It's a lot of people. World's got a lot of stuff. There's no sense in us. Do I? No, I don't want to do that. Okay, we're gonna leave that alone. So, authentication type. I need to save this somewhere, and I needed to know which one I'm saving. Oh, this is why I need it. Because the way we have it right now, I need those two view models. Where do they live? It's in core, right? Ooh, it's not in core. Why is it not in core? Why are my view models not in core? They can be, right? If not nice, I'll settle for on. Yes, that's fair, Grumpy Game Dev. Yes. If someone can't, if someone's not going to be nice, at least honesty is slightly good, I guess. Okay, let's bring this onto the screen for a second. So this is our incomplete piece. So what we are doing right now is handling, we're going to say whip, handling received auth token. Okay, something I do when I am committing into Git that I find is very helpful. Sometimes I want to make a commit into one of my branches that is there so that I can better view a subset of changes. So because I'm about to move some files that I have changed already, I want to make sure that all the commits against them are, all the changes to them are committed to the branch already. So when I do that, I want to make sure there's a commit. If I'm not at a good point to commit, I put whip on the beginning, work in progress. I let everyone know, and everyone includes future me, that this code is not code that is done. It was not really intended to be committed. It might be because I needed to do a commit before I ran out the door. I needed to do a commit for some other reason. And this is one of the reasons that distributed version control, Git being the popular one that we use right now, is so useful, is because, like, I can commit, and this hasn't gone anywhere. This hasn't gone to anyone else. Yes, exactly. Yes. As Pauman, I'm guessing. If I butchered your name, I apologize. Tell me how to say it, and I'll try to do it better next time. Just said there, or to just get it off your computer. So, especially if I'm working on a laptop and I'm going to go back to working on a desktop or switch computers, I'm working on a temporary place, I will make a work in progress commit just so that I can push it out to a centralized repository to pull it onto another machine later, or just to save it in case of computer crashes, etc. Makes it so you don't just have local code. Because most of us work in user-specific branches, so I Benric prefix all my branches, that is an indicator to everyone else, hey, that's my working code. Don't depend on that. Don't build off of it. Don't make commits to my branch. And that sort of lets me get away with, I'm willing to change history on my own branch. Excellent. Glad to hear it. So the thing, I never know with names, so I just kind of take a guess and hope that I'm close enough that I didn't offend anyone. It's really challenging when you have like a worldwide audience, because the letter that scares me the most in names, I'm gonna be honest with you, is J. The letter J, because there are like 4 different pronunciations for that letter depending on where in the world it came from. And then you also get thrown off by stuff because something can look like it's from somewhere else, but they're just using a word that's not the one you thought it was. So, like, one of our moderators is named Essenby, and I was like, "Oh, are you? Is that? Are you from Essen?" And it's like, "No, not from Essen. That was like, because I saw Essen, and I was like, oh, they could be German or from Germany. Yeah, exactly. Do you eat bees? Exactly. It's no. It's honey. Grumpy Game Dev. Clearly, he eats honey because that is like food for bees. It's bee food. Or names that sound like words that aren't PG. Yeah, when they're those, I try to be careful which portion of their name I say. So it's fun. So you'll notice my name right here. So my name is Brendan, which you can see right there. But I go by Brendonius in a lot of places. So when I join chats on Twitch and I come in as Brendonius, the people that get my name are the ones that just charge at it and say it. And they're just like, welcome, Brendonius. And they just shout it out. They always get it right. The people that slow down, and then they try to say it, you get like Brendanus. And it's like, nope, you missed it. You just needed to charge in and try it. So you never know on a name. Some of them you need to take slowly. Some of them you need to go quick. It's whatever. So, okay, so plan, we're going to do a work in progress commit, and that just lets everyone know, don't depend on that. My code might be changing. It's a named branch. If I want to roll back my commits and undo them, pull them off the stack, I can, because it's my named branch. So that's one of the indicators that you can give to the rest of your team, is if you put your name on your branch, it's like saying, hey, this is mine. Don't touch it. I'm going to mess with it. Feature branches that don't have a person's name on it are generally considered to be the team's stuff, is a good rule of thumb. So if you want to work on something collaboratively with someone else, make a branch that either has some combined name or a shared name or something like that. Don't use a person's name. That way you can say, if it's got my username, don't touch it. It's got my name, don't touch it, that's mine. Exactly. As Simon mentioned, just always assume a branch that's named for a person is that one. And yes, a sandbox. Exactly. Yep, that's good descriptions of that. So naming is key. Branches are easy to create and get, so just make branches off of stuff. So if you do need to collaborate with someone, I could if I needed to collaborate with someone on this TwitchLib stuff, I would make a shared TwitchLib. I would make like shared/TwitchLib and push that up, which I'd just branch off of here. I'd stop using my own branch for this purpose, and instead I would be making pull requests to the shared branch from mine. And that's how I would end up doing it. And clever names like delete me. Yes. Same rules for SQL Server database names. Yes, exactly. Yep. You can do SQL Server database names the same way, by just naming them to the person, or shared ones are shared. Yep. Totally works. Okay. So that code is committed, which means I am now safe to make this giant change, which I'm going to try this. I'm going to grab the view models and see if I can move them. In theory, because the view models should not know about the presentation necessarily. The presentation should be bound to them, but the other understanding should not be there. So these should be able to move to core. Okay, folder has moved. I have not updated namespaces, so the thing that will break is the XAML. I'm gonna fix the namespaces, Grumpy Game Dev. I was just checking to see if it would build without it because I hadn't changed the namespaces yet. Alright, let's do this. This is gonna be messy. Close all the documents. Let's open all of these. So, all open documents. Ah, right, because I had them know about that. Because they knew about they knew what icon they were going to display. I'm not sure what I do about that. Yeah, I need the icon to come in somehow. It's like... I don't terribly mind the icon coming in some other form. This is a head scratcher right here. Figuring out how we're going to pull this out. Icon enum in the view model. I-value converter in the view. The trick with that Icy Black Deep is if we do go that route, then it has to be able to tell the difference between all the different types, because there are multiple types of icons we are using. Exactly, as Apoc Dev mentions, the enum could be huge if we go that route, unless we make the enum only contain the ones we're using, at which point it just becomes added each time we need to do one. So the enum would end up with like a dozen values. Every icon we used in the site would have one. Icon becomes generic T icon. Yeah, that's why I had it in there originally, Simon, because it does kind of make sense for it. So I think what we need to do is something a little bit different. So we're going to back this up and put it back over here. But this is part of why I wanted to get our code committed, because we're going to be shifting things around and I might need to undo it. So in theory, the view model should be able to leave there. This means that we have a little bit too much presentation in our view model. But what we should be able to get away with is if the data that this uses comes from somewhere else. So if these use a different storage for that, Twitch authentication maybe? This could just use Twitch authentication. What if we had this? What if we had a dictionary of authentication type, and then do we not have... Alright, it's going to be this in string for now. That's not what it's going to be. Put the candle back. Attributes? We could maybe do an attribute style approach. I didn't read all what Simon says. That way it helps if you have dependencies or leaking, especially if you have a concrete types. International delegate DI as an extension method container in each assembly. Yeah. So I'm thinking about this, which I don't hate. So string is not what it's going to be. This 3-hour call? No, APOC Dev. I do not want to go on a 3-hour call. Have fun. Have fun storming the castle. International is internal. If you keep concrete types internal and delegate DI as extension methods of container in each assembly. Oh yeah, that is actually a very good point, Simon. If we did do extension methods to handle the actual registration of the dependencies, we could keep many of them internal to the class library so that they don't bleed over into the other spots. Twitch credentials. We're going to make Twitch credentials. One of them is an auth token. Channel name. Maybe user. We'll say username. So there's a username. There's the authentication token. What did we call it? Twitch bot? Username, access token. Do we have anything else that we use in these credentials? No. So we're not going to use TwitchLib's credentials, but we're going to create their credentials from our credentials. So we're going to have an auth token and a username. That'll be what we have for now. Please, I'll pay you in shoelaces. No. I do charge my clients quite a bit more than shoelaces. Let's actually put in the... Let's put the channel as well. So username, channel, and auth token. Okay, so inside of Twitch authentication, instead of being dictionary of string, it's going to be a dictionary of authentication token and authentication type and credentials. So this is which ones these are. So when we receive this in here, we're going to say credentials for the auth type the auth token is going to equal this better exist. We'll make sure this exists a moment before this. You have them in many colors. Oh, there you go. Request dot access token. So that should set the token to the right value. The trick is we now need to make these credentials be the back end of our view model. So our view model now needs to actually be using these to store. This is where it needs to really store them. False. We didn't actually, so this being a task is silly because we didn't do anything async. Return task not from result true. There you go. That'll make that work. To do You sure there is an entry in the dictionary? Can't you save to storage async? Yes, Simon, we probably will, but I'm not doing the storage yet. So we have not added the storage piece, so no, we're not doing that. Until we add the storage piece, there's nowhere to save. But yes, you are correct. We need to add the data store. But since we aren't doing that yet, all I would be doing was doing an await on essentially we would basically be sleeping for a second because there's no saving. So until that exists, no, I can't. I sort of can, but I can't. Okay, the view model. This needs to work a little bit differently. Yeah, exactly. I can pretend, and that's about it. And the to-do covers that enough for now. All right, so instead of storing direct to channel, what I want to do is say auth dot... actually, you know what? Ooh, am I going to get yelled at for call... I shouldn't get yelled at for calling an abstract in here, right? I want to say Auth Type. I think it might actually yell at me about this. Funny enough. If it does not contain this key... Yeah, it's going to yell at me. Virtual member call in constructor. How long is that inheritance chain? What? Not very. Not very. And this I'm actually going to change into a... I'm going to change it to an interface, I think, instead of being an abstract class. Because I don't think that's buying me anything. So if it doesn't have this, we're going to make one. Oops, credentials. Oh, would Triad do it? Huh. I don't remember what those do. Auth Type. I don't remember how they fail is the problem. Cyrilash! Moo! Welcome. Yeah, computer says no. So it's yelling at me about it. So this is not the worst thing to call. So the challenge is that it doesn't like that I'm calling a... So... Because constructors run in specific order, I'm calling... So the parent constructor is trying to call a property of the child. And that's what it doesn't like here. Because of the fact that I am just hard coding it every time, and it's like on the class, like straight up just on the class itself, it's not really a problem. So I know this isn't going to break anything, but it's still going to complain at me because it's not probably the way I should do it. realistically, I guess I should have them each have their own piece that does this. So when they try to access theirs, so let's do this. We're gonna do it this way. Here's what we're gonna change. We're gonna make a protected property on this that is the credentials. So we will do this as a lazy access, essentially. Okay, so this is going to be your credentials. And the way you're going to get your credentials is you're going to say authentication credentials. Get value or default. And your key is your auth type. The default of that is going to be null. So alternately, what you're going to do instead is return back I'm going to write it the easier way, and then we'll fix it as we need to. So we're going to say that is credentials. If credentials equals null, then we are going to say Twitch authentication credentials for the auth type equals a new one. So instead we could just make this a Boolean and say if it doesn't contain the type. So let's write it like this. If that contains key, so if that does not contain the auth type key, add a new one, and regardless, then you're going to return back Twitch authentication credentials of the auth type. So if we had it, it's going to return. If we did not have it, then we will create a new one. There would be option to there would be the option to pass auth type in the constructor. We don't want to pass the so we could pass auth type in the constructor technically, but then we would have to have it as part of our IOC registration. And that's what would get weird there. Syntac, welcome, thanks for that follow. Welcome to the stream. So I don't think we can get away with that because it would need to be a different one. It's not consistent, so each one of the type would need a different one. So you're right. I could pass it into the base one from the child passing that in. You're right. I could just pass it in from there, and then we wouldn't have to access, and it would actually just set it, and instead of being an abstract, it would just be required in the constructor. Yeah, we could do it that way. We could do it that way. Essentially, then I would just be moving this check into the constructor. Yeah, why not? Yeah, we can do that. So this is no longer abstract then. That's just a protected get-only piece. And is it protected? I guess we don't have to make it protected. We could make it public if we wanted, I guess. We'll leave it protected, see if anything ever needs it. So you're thinking if I do this, and set that value as a parameter in here, then we could totally pass that in. and then Auth Type would just set Auth Type, and then we would use it here, using the property, because why not? Doesn't really make a difference. It's not going to be a performance challenge. And then the callers of this, of which there are only 2, would, instead of doing this, just pass them in here. Yep, that'll work just fine. Yep, we could totally do that. Nowadays, don't pass anything in a constructor other than the property values for POCOs, independent services for DIs, as you can bet anything else will burn you later. Yes. This I don't think will burn us later, because that is a consistent one coming from this to its base class. We're not actually, because we're not passing it into the... We're only passing it into the abstract from the children, from the concrete ones. And the concrete ones, it's always static. So because of the fact that it's always static, it should never bite us, because we'll never need to pass this in something that is generated from an IOC container. So we should be safe from that. All right. That ought to do that. Now let's take a look and see. So that gets us our credentials there. In our Twitch bot, we're using these. So I was creating this just straight off the bat here, but I don't really want to do that because I want us to have to click connect in order for this Twitch chatbot to actually connect. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a public void connect method. And on this method, we will do all the stuff that is currently in the constructor. So this is the sample code for TwitchLib that we pulled off of their GitHub repository. So you get away with it because it's a constructor of an abstract class. Yes, exactly. Yes, precisely, Simon. You're 100% correct. The abstract class in this case is the exception that proves the rule. Yep. It would be valid even if it's not abstract. But the challenge is that the non-abstract version then becomes harder to inject, and that's what Simon is talking about. So if that base class were not abstract, then it would make it so that we would need a default value. So if there were a default value that we could set on that, then that would actually be fine, and we would not have to pass it in from essentially from the IOC container. So what we would need to do in that case is add an additional constructor so that we sort of got away from that. Yeah, the non-abstract version wouldn't make sense on this, like, because you wouldn't ever want to create an instance of one that was not either specifically a bot or a streamer, because it's going to be one or the other. And if it wasn't, we would make a third child type that were the specific one it is, even if there were nothing special about it, just for the sake of having more consistency in the types. Okay, so this is how we're going to connect. Public void and disconnect. Not implemented exception. We have not implemented disconnect yet. Or if you were registering a singleton specific instance, maybe. Yeah, so because the way that this application works, we probably would have a singleton instance anyway. We could register the instance with the container instead of registering the type, at which point we can have set that value and even have used the service provider itself to resolve any types that it needed at the creation of that instance. Yes. Yep. Okay. Why does it not like client right here? Read-only field can't be set there. Oh. Can the client? This can get created up here. But then the initialization connection to the client shouldn't happen until we actually grab our credentials and do this. That being said, that credentials object could get set early, but we don't care. So we want to take in a Twitch credentials. Ooh, which I don't have, because this is coming out of our Twitch project, which you'll notice does not have a reference to core yet. So I do want this to have a reference to core, so we'll give this a project reference to core and click OK. So that'll add this, which basically says, hey, go over, reference that project. So we're allowed to pull stuff from it. So credentials out of there. So now what I want to do is this. I now want to do something fun. I want to say to Twitch lib. Now someone's going to look at this and laugh right now because I'm sure someone has figured out what I'm about to do. So I'm going to go over here into our Twitch project and create a folder that I'm going to call extensions. And I'm going to create a class called credentials extensions. And I'm going to debate whether or not I want to get rid of the namespace piece for that. But this is going to be a static class. And it's going to be a public credentials, connection credentials. Whoops, the static credentials, connection credentials, this, Twitch credentials. I mean, I could auto-mapper it, but I'm not planning on it because this is easy. Access token. I don't need to mess with either of those. Okay. All right. So that will do the conversion. There we go. Exactly, Simon. There's like, I've done one conversion of types matching those. It's not complicated enough, like to merit pulling in the AutoMapper project and doing AutoMapper and AutoMapper, configuration and setup, and like, it's too much complexity for someone can click this and see, okay, that's how you transfer the credentials over into the right type. Cool. Okay, so that should work once those get set. So that will give the credentials there. Channel needs to come from those credentials as well. So credentials channel. So this says, okay, join that channel. We're going to wire up these pieces. It's going to do write lines. Does it do chat message sends? Okay. On message received and on whisper received. Okay, so let's do a conditioned response right now. So chat message is the broadcaster. Client send message e dot chat message channel, I guess. e.chat message. We'll just have it repeat anything I say in chat. So anything I say, it will say back to me. And funny enough, if I authenticate it with my user account, it'll say it back as me, which is weird. So it's like I'll say things twice instead of like me and then a bot. But that should be a way to check and see that it works. Okay. Yeah, that's kind of what I was wondering. Technically, it's actually gonna. Yes, exactly. E.chat message starts with all right, we'll do this. We'll have it reply with pong if you say ping. And actually, we'll just say ping. Okay, is this gonna work? I don't know if this is gonna work. So the weird part is we're still not saving the OAuth token, so I will need to connect it with the screen hidden. So I apologize about that, everyone. No, connect doesn't do anything yet. I can't connect it. Let's... Whoops. Twitch. Bot. Bot view model. Here we go. This is the thing we needed to add in. Twitch bot. From infra Twitch? No. No. Interface. iTwitch bot. And iTwitch bot has I can't type today. Nope, I totally can't type today because ReSharper's fighting me. It has a void connect, taking in Twitch credentials, and it has a void disconnect. Twitch bot. That it's happy with. Yay. Okay. So that's one reason. I mean, so you'd think that it might DDoS it, but it sort of will and it sort of won't. And the reason why is because messages allowed in the period is set. It like does have a limit. And so it will actually throttle it. So you're right that it would spam the chat, but TwitchLib has built in some throttling. So it wouldn't, like, basically we would end up with a local backlog of messages that was increasing at the rate of whatever the throttling speed is. So it'd just be a constant, queue of messages. Always waiting for its turn to get sent. So this needs a Twitch bot that it will save. So make a Twitch bot, and then in the connect and the disconnect, we pass in this credentials? I thought I made a credentials object. Did I not actually make a little credentials, like, property for that? I thought I made one. It's not the back end of these yet, so I guess I didn't actually make the helper when I backed that out. So, Twitch credentials, I swear I had that auto-completing. There we go. Twitch authentication, credentials, based on the auth type. There it is. So that is the access to the credentials. Pass in the credentials there. And then disconnect is going to be twitchbot.disconnect. And there we go. So that connects, that disconnects, and these trigger when someone clicks the button. So these commands are what are, these methods are basically bound to those buttons. So when people click the connect and disconnect button, it calls these. And when I told people I prototyped it, what I did was I actually built it so that there were commands that were setting the values that we are displaying based on. I did both is connected and is disconnected only because I didn't bother getting into the I wanted to do a separate stream where I showed how you do custom value converters to do things like Boolean divisibility converter. So right now we're using the built-in one, and the built-in one will only tie Booleans to true and false, but it will not give you control of which one they mean. So I can't do a hide if true and a show if true as two separate value converters. So those are two separate value converters that I want to be able to support. And you can decide whether you want to make them two separate converters or the same converter, but parameterized. And you can do both of those in WPF, but I want to show that in its own stream. So if that's something you're interested in, be sure that you're following our stream so that you can make sure that you catch the episode when I do that piece to see how that type of thing would work in WPF. Keep in mind that means it would also work in a UWP as well as a bunch of other things. I'm not sure the implementation that Microsoft's going to be going with for Maui, which is, if you don't know, Maui is going to be the cross-platform UI framework that they're building. So the new lightweight .NET Core based UI framework that is supposed to span across mobile and Mac and Windows and chat's going to kill me if I don't say it's community driven on Linux as well, which means that Microsoft's not going to build it, but everything else is going to be open source. So it shouldn't, I would expect that probably the Linux community will add one for that. So the question is whether that would be better as an enum, and it could either be an enum that we were basing the visibility on, at which point we would need a value converter for that, which is also possible. We would, again, just need to parameterize in order to make that work. But Booleans are, so bool to viz converter is built in, which is why I did that, because I didn't want to build I wanted to wait and build a custom value converter on the stream. So that's the short answer for why I didn't do that. And yes, Simon, I was not going to forget the DI registration. So you are totally correct. Because we're not auto scanning, we do have to go and add the DI to our IOC containers registration. So I'm going to hop over to Startup, and I'm going to tell it about this thing. So services, add transient, and if I could type TwitchBot. If I didn't mess up the order, then that should work. So I essentially told it, when you're asked for an iTwitchBot, give it TwitchBot. Value converters messed me up when I started getting into WP. Exactly, Cal Raven. Precisely. So you now understand why I want to show them and explain them on the stream. Because anyone that is ever looking into doing any WPF or UWP or wants to do any of the XAML-based stuff, at any point, you need to understand value converters, because it's one of a variety of ways that you can make sure that you translate from whatever object you have into whatever object you need without going to code. Yes, exactly, Simon. They're a pain in the rear, actually. But yes, being able to parameterize them is huge, because what that does, and that's why I want to do that one, is because it's a neater effect, is I can say at the time that I use the value converter whether true means visible or true means invisible. So true could, I should say visible and hidden, just because they're slightly better words for that. And so if I say is connected is my property on my view model, one button might show, might be visible if is connected, and one might be hidden if is connected, and I need to tell it, hey, parameterizer, here's what true means. So I should say, hey, value converter, let me use this parameter to tell you what true means for this instance, and you can actually pass those in. It's way nice to do that, so you don't have to make two versions where, like you've written two versions of the same value converter. Quite silly to do it that way. Okay, was that the only one I needed to register? You know what? I'll find out when I click the button. Bark. I forgot to add them here, so I added the Twitch bot here, and Twitch bot. Let's go to the other one. Whoops, that was the other one. Let's go to this one. Donk. And then Twitch bot. There we go. Now let's compile and run it. Hidden and unhidden. Yes. Visible and invisible. So English has some weird stuff because of the fact that we picked up like prefixes and other bits from so many different languages. One of the best ones is like flammable. So like visible and invisible means, you can see it and you cannot see it, where in has undone it. So active and inactive. But go look at flammable in the English language, because there's flammable and inflammable, and they both mean flammable. I assume it's, I don't know, but it does. There's other examples of that ridiculousness where it's like, wait, how did that? Wait, what? But that doesn't. What? Yep. Yay, English. Okay, so instead of having channel, we're going to do credentials.channel. Ooh, it won't, because it's that. I might have to change how my set property works in order to make that work. So set property is a shortcut that I have that will set the value and do the notify property changed, so that I don't have to have multiple lines everywhere to make sure I notify property changed on these. If I don't do that, it works fine for T, where T is a reference type, where T is a class. Right? Effectively. Now all the spots that I use the ref keyword would break. Now the problem is Boolean is obviously used everywhere, and Boolean is not. Inflammable can self-ignite. Flammable ignition source has been added to the rule of thumb I was taught, but not necessarily combustible. Yeah, so the weird thing there then is you also get into uses in like the way it's used in different contexts by different people. Because I've also seen many things where people are like, this is something they say in American English, and I'm like, I've never heard of that. Where you get, oh, that's California only. That's not America. Like, that's... Like, there are so many different versions of it that it's like, yeah, language ends up with just how people are using it, and it's entirely possible that inflammable meant not flammable at some point, but I don't know the history of that well enough. Alright, I'm going to go back to that being a ref, because that's going to cause me problems if I don't. So how do I get around this? So alternately, I could just do what setProperty does, and... Or I could make a different one. Will it treat these as separate? So if I make this a function of t getter, I say but I can't set it then. Because I can't set that value. Unless I did this. Hey, Hawk. Welcome. Thanks for that follow. Much appreciated. Welcome to the stream. Setter. I'd literally have to do that. I have to update my profile picture on Pluralsight? Oh, yeah. I have not looked at my Pluralsight page. Do they have like a... they might have like a decade-old picture or something like that. They took author photos at one point, a long time ago. Let me have a look. How bad is it? How out of date is this? Oh, yeah. That is a decade-old photo for sure. That's 10 years old. No, yeah, that's a 10-year-old photo. Yeah, so we were just like at the event, and they were like, yeah, so yeah, they were just like, oh yeah, they just sat us down and were like, hey, yeah, photos. I was like, oh, okay. I guess we'll do an action of t for the setter. So we'll do a setter and pass in the value. So we have two ways of setting the property. You can either define a getter and setter, or you can pass by reference. So in this one, yeah, they were kind of weird. It's fine. It's fine. I'm not worried about it. So we're gonna do that for the getter, and then is that the setter? Does that work? Why does that not work? Oh, whoops. I have these random parens that I put around it for some reason. Z, welcome. Welcome to the stream. Thanks for that follow, much appreciated. Oh, Hopefully you are luckily, viewership of a course and enjoyment of said course does not require that you care at all about what the author photo looks like. So, I should update that at some point. You are totally correct. Okay, so that removes that backing store object. Does the streamer one have anything? It does not. So now everything else is in the base class. Forgotten Sands! Welcome. Thank you for that follow. Much appreciated. Welcome to the stream. I need to make the user virtual. Username has to be virtual because I need to override this in the streamer one. Now you might be wondering, Brendan, why do you need to override it in the streamer one? And the reason why for the streamer, the username and the channel are the same. For the bot, they're different. Do I code in Python? Sometimes, Forgotten Sands. Specifically, one of the things that we are going to be doing on this stream is... not stream meaning like the channel, like the lives, like not today. So we are working on our chatbot that is designed to support a number of different chat bots plugins. And we on this channel have built Python plugins before for the Streamlabs chatbot. We've done those on our streams. That is correct, the Grumpy Game Dev. But Brendonius is a fun nickname. Grumpy Game Dev, then you probably live in the United States. Because in the US, I think something like 5 to 10% of all the Brendans spell it with an O. But yeah, see, there you go. For some reason in the US, some people decided to change the spelling. I don't know why. It's an Irish name. Awesome. And yes, so we do Python in the stream. So our languages are primarily C#, secondary is JavaScript, and tertiary is Python on this stream. So we do some of all of it. They have very similar syntaxes. They work in very similar ways. The actual code that you write is different, but coding is coding, regardless of what language you're in. I saw someone else chatting in your virtual assistants. Greeting, welcome, virtual assistant. Yes, we made the username virtual, which is funny that you're here because your username is virtual. That's good. And the thing that'll surprise you, Grumpy Game Dev, is there are actually some Brendans that spell it with 2 E's instead of EA or EO. And thinking about the way that you say it, at least with English spelling, you could use any vowel, even Y, for that second vowel. Because Brendan, like, that sound, and depending on the word, could get replaced with a Y, an I, a U, an E, an O, an A. It doesn't matter. Like, yes, exactly. Yep. So you can use any, like, because of English's versatility with that sound, you can get away with any of them. Oh, okay. You did C# on Unity. So, yep, C# should be familiar. Excellent. Excellent. Good. Okay, so I made that virtual, so let's go ahead and override it. So we're going to override username because I want to change how this one works. Welcome. I'll say Ark. Welcome to the stream, Ark. All joking aside, the username virtual is for multiple users, right? So the reason we're making it virtual here is actually because I need to change how it works on the streamer view model. So we have 2 implementations of this type. One of them is for a bot, and in the bot, the username and the channel are 2 separate things because your bot username and the channel it joins are not necessarily the same. But for the streamer account, the channel they join is going to be their own. So that means that we want the username and the channel to be the same. So I need to make it that when we set the username, we also set the channel. So that's why this needs to be virtual, because I need to override it in this situation. Which I will do like this. And for the get, we will do credentials dot username. So that one's normal. But for the setter, we need to set two things, actually. So this will not be a simple one. Whoops. So we need to set that property and this one. So we need to set the username and the channel. Ooh, is that going to modify that? Channel's only on that one. It does. Oh, it needs to set it, but it needs to set it on the credentials object, but it does not need to do a set property because there's not one that it's setting. So we're not doing that piece. Yes, I understand now. So this does username. This is what I was about to do wrong. I almost got it wrong. So credentials.channel. So this one it can just set to the value. Because this view doesn't have channel displayed, so I don't need to notify about the property change because there is no channel property on this object. So that's why we had to adjust that. Mind if you ask what the keyboard shortcut is to do the multiple lines at once? Oh, Topher. Sure, absolutely. Also, I hope your name is Topher. If it's not and I butchered it, let me know and I will try to correct. So, what I am doing to get multiple lines is I am actually holding the Alt key and the Shift key. So Alt and Shift, and then I can go down multiple lines in order to do that. So I'm just using arrow keys to select these multiple lines, and if I want to get whole sets, I can click around while I have Alt and Shift still held down, and that will do that. Once I'm on multiple lines, I can just type and make all those changes to multiple lines at once. I will give you the warning. If you are in VS Code, your keyboard shortcut is different. If you do Alt-Shift in VS Code, it will actually take your current line and duplicate that down to the line below. So if you're in VS Code, I forget what the keyboard shortcut is, but it's a different one, and theirs works a little bit differently too. For example, if I'm here and I hit to the end, so I hit the end key, you'll notice I'm now a single cursor on one line. Done in VS Code, this actually works even better because it will actually leave my cursor here, here, and here, leaving me essentially at the end at separate columns on my in my code, but all at the end of whatever current line was being selected. So it's really, really powerful over there. Is it Control-Shift-Alt? Yeah. What is the general purpose of the bot? So our bot, so this is going to be, so it's a Twitch chat bot that we're building, but we're specifically building this one modularly, and the end goal is to be able to take our existing bots and other people's existing bots and be able to essentially include the pieces that we've written for them as components of this one. So we'll essentially just I'll be able to take all the neat functions that I did in my other bots and just put them into this one as a module and run it. So from each one of my other bots. So I've got 3 different bots. The goal is just do that. I want to be able to support, exactly, so centralizing a variety of different bots. So I've got custom Streamlabs chatbots plugins that I've built. I've got custom chatbot commands and games that I've built for my own chatbot. I've got stuff that I've built for a program called Interactive 7, which gives chat control of the Final Fantasy VII game while a streamer is streaming it. Chat can do all kinds of manipulations to it. I have built some custom plugins for other streamers, and I want to be able to essentially just make it so that, yes, you want to include stuff, you found a command on the internet that does some cool thing, but it's for a bot you don't use. Cool. This bot can just run all of them. So, yes, exactly. So the idea is that you're less likely to have all your bots fighting if you can centralize, and essentially we're going to give hooks for them to be able to set the aliases of all the commands. So not all stuff will come in nicely, but if when you bring in a bot, if you just when you bring in that functionality, if you make it customizable so that you can alias the commands, you can just replace the way that those commands work. We could even just give you warnings if they're at least willing to tell us what commands it responds to. Yes, exactly. Wheatlaw's correct. The idea is to unite the bots, not like get rid of the others, but if any streamer is using more than one, it's better to have one spot. So it's like you know, Voltron. You know, you just hook up all the bots into one bot. We heard. Okay, so that is property setting. I got that one. I think I got that one right. We don't need a username. We don't need OAuth. Those disappear because those are going into the credential. Why didn't I save the whole thing? Why did I only save the piece of that? Was I smoking something when I did that? Oh, I pulled it from a line that didn't have a full thing. That's what happened. I was like, why didn't that work? And then this is credentials.username. Okay, and then the OAuth token is going to be credentials.auth token, and then this is going to be auth token and auth token. There we go. I think that should be everything that was using those. Now I'm going to run this. When I actually try the authentication, I'm going to hide the screen so that so that I do not accidentally show my OAuth token on the screen while I'm streaming. Multiple bots are also fun. Then one bot can play hangman with the other. So Wheatlaw, you're correct. Even if you do this, that does not preclude your ability to run another bot. So if you wanted to have two bots because one needed to communicate something to the other one, that's fine. You can totally do that. But technically, you could have them communicate from within this same bot. There's nothing that says that the modules of this bot can't talk to each other. Yes, exactly. The grumpy game dev, you are precisely right. This bot is designed to basically just put all the pieces together. Okay, let's bring this up. Ooh. Your experience comes from a more open chat where anyone could host a bot. Oh yes, Wheatlaw. Yeah, you're right. You're thinking of like an IRC bot or something like that, which is funny to say because you can connect an IRC bot to Twitch chat. But anyway, let me go ahead and hide the screen while I do my OAuth tokens. Hi chat. I went and tried to do the thing I was trying to do, and I derped. I agree, Simon. The no peeking screen could definitely use a face cam. It's not on there right now, and I should add it, and I haven't added it. But I totally derped that, cause reasons. That was stupid. I remember Simon saying specifically, don't forget to mess with the IOC registration, and I was like, I won't forget. I'm remembering that I need to go add this, and what I forgot to add was this. type of recorder. I forgot to add that. So when it registered the mediator handlers, it did not also register the handlers for this. So I did not actually get the handler that I was expecting, so it did not actually run. So I will try that again. The hide screen will not be up long because my brain is functioning at the moment, and I should be able to click on the correct buttons. So be right back. Womp womp. All right. You're right. It's going well then. Yeah. When I tried it, I was like, "Huh, why didn't that work?" And so I looked and tried to check and see what happened. And what I found out was I screwed up. So remember when I said some things need to be singletons and some things can be transient. So like these models are transient. The Twitch bot, at least for here, is transient because you want a bot to be specific to these models that you've got because there are potentially multiple bots that you could be connecting. So where bot type, we're gonna have to have different bots at some point because one is going to be like the bot that does stuff, and technically, so I said Twitch bot right now, but that's not the final name because obviously we need a Twitch connection of some kind for the streamer one because we want to be able to connect as the streamer account to be able to do some of that sort of information gathering and stuff like that. There's different things the streamer gets access to on their own auth, so hence doing two separate ones for that. But what I screwed up was my authentication piece that I was like, yeah, this is the piece that's going to manage authentication everywhere. I had it as transient instead of singleton, so now I'm going to go ahead and try it again, only with less dumb this time, because yeah, the state didn't line up, so it wasn't able to actually match it. It was like, oh, I don't know this request. Why are you asking me this? I don't know what that is. So let me go ahead and just do this one last. Hey, see that? Yeah. Yes, I know, Simon. I'm not sure why it doesn't have it. It must have lost it at some point. So because I hadn't been doing the Twitch connections in a long time, that's usually where I was using that no peeking screen. Since I haven't done it in a long time, I think OBS must have like removed the mic from it at some point when I was messing around with mic settings, and so I'm gonna have to re-add it in to that screen. So so sometime before our next stream, I will try to add that back in. What are you using for the UI? We are using something called MaApps. It is WPF, and we are using MaApps for that. And I will show you what that is, just so you know that it is the right one. It is this. It's pretty nice. I tend to read aloud. Oh yeah. Yes. It is possible that I would read aloud on that. I don't know whether I'm going to turn on the camera because like people will be like, "Ooh, I can see the Auth token in your reflection of your glasses." But this is actually what we use for the for this. It's not bad. It is a community like open source like library of templates and controls and other stuff for doing styling and such of like WPF apps. So it's not bad, and you get like, yeah, see, look, he's gonna do some theme changing up there on that one. So like you can, that's one of the things we like about it is easy theme changing. Stoolpenner jumping in with more gifted subs to the channel. Awesome, thank you very much, and welcome to the DevChatter Chatosaurus crew, Calraven. And Sunamods. And Zelesgy, I'm guessing, and Rexy. Welcome, everyone. I really do need that haircut. I wasn't kidding. And one more. But yeah, that's what we're using for the UI on this. And there we go. I think that's all of them. I think that's all for it. Welcome to the crew, everyone. Congrats on having some eggs and dinosaurs all around. Yes, exactly. Yeah, I know. What's a haircut? Stoolpenner, thanks again for gifting 4 more subs to the DevChatter community. Always appreciated. Love having more people in here with Chattosauruses. They're lots of fun all over Twitch. So, excellent. Enjoy, everyone. Have fun. Spam them around. Feel free to type ping and have Pong show up. Okay, so what that tells me is that if we save these credentials somewhere, we can do our authentication into Twitch, and it should work just fine. So that is what I wanted to check there is this going to work? And the answer to that is yes. Yeah. Ping, pong, ping, pong. Thank you, Prototype, for chiming in with the pong there for everyone. Okay, there we go. Be sure there is an entry in the dictionary. There should be. Okay. So let's go ahead and do this. So we're gonna say record creds in memory. Connect to Twitch. So we record the credentials in memory and connect to Twitch, and that's it. Nothing else. There we go. Yay! Yes. Prototype had you covered there, Simon. The bot wasn't live, but Prototype made sure that that your command got a response. Rexy, you got gifted a sub by Stoolpenner, so make sure you thank Stoolpenner for getting you that shocked emote. Yes, welcome to the stream. I assume you got a notification about the gifted sub, and had to jump in here and say hello. Greetings, welcome. Yes. There you go. All right. So we have all that committed. So last thing, the piece that we need to get. So we have retrieved and pulled in memory those credentials. The last thing that we need to do is we need to set up a long-term data storage for the bot. So whatever we do with that, I don't know yet. We have to decide if we want to keep I think we want to keep the credentials encrypted essentially as soon as we receive them. So even when they're in memory on our computer, they are encrypted, and only decrypt them directly before we send them to Twitch to authenticate us. So essentially, I want to make it so that at the Twitch bot point, we right here, when we create the credentials, to do decrypt here. And then at recorder, I want to add another to do here. Record, encrypt credentials here. So I want to essentially, as soon as we have those credentials in C#, at that exact moment, I want to encrypt them. And I only want to decrypt them temporarily in memory for a variable that is immediately going to be sent out to authenticate us. And essentially, like, as soon as we can get that to TwitchLib and not have it in any of our code with access to it, that is where we want to be. We want to have as the minimal touch point as possible where those credentials are unencrypted, if that makes sense. Because there is no reason to keep them unencrypted anywhere, because we can just at the last moment give them back to them. Okay. Which I should mention is one of the reasons why you don't want to have standard starting points like OAuth at the beginning of a token like that. So sometimes so I don't know enough about the cryptography that's being used by the yes, so Simon's correct. So we should encrypt it and store it as a secure string in memory while we're using it, is what Simon is talking about. So, like, we should make the property a secure string. Which will also help. But we do need to, first step when getting it here is automatically encrypt the thing. So, yep. Definitely some steps that we want to take here. And I think that that's actually a good idea. So that's a really good point. I could go to the credentials right now, and I might be able to just make this secure string. And let's see how much blows up. A little bit's going to blow up. Question is, do we need this? We never show this. Yeah, that doesn't mean it's always going to not bother, though. Because you got to remember that that it's currently getting a bit of a rewrite from Lucky, so maybe he'll take that route. I don't know. Either way, I'm not going to go down that today, but yes, you are correct. We should absolutely do that. So this is reminder to-dos of encrypt, decrypt steps. All right, so those are some reminder to-dos for us to make sure that we get that. Let's see, I want to clicky those buttons. All right, so I want to wrap up the stream here in a bit, but I want to make sure I mention a couple of things. First off, if you are not a member of our Discord, go check the link below the stream. And actually, since I don't have my bot running, I wanted to only have one bot running today, which would be that one. I did not toss it in there, but there should be links directly below the stream that go to things like our Discord, which I just linked in the chat over there. That is a great community where you can chat with me and the other members of our of the DevChatter community. I also want to encourage you to click the follow button so you get notified of when we go live. We are back to our old schedule where Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays are when we're going to be doing our streams. As always, no guarantee that every day is going to have a stream because I am an independent consultant, so at any day I might have meetings that are either going to overlap or need to be prepped for, like during a time that I'd be streaming, etc., etc. So stuff comes up that interrupts it because I do my streams during our daytime, so it does potentially get interference from things. We are going to be continuing. So I want to get this bot to the point where it just has the basic command stuff, and then I want to jump back to some of the other projects we're working on. This is not the only project we do here on the stream. We like to work on more than one project at a time, so I will also be doing some stuff. I want to get Guy Royce back on so we can continue our series called Making Inefficient Data Structures in JavaScript. So if you're interested in learning how data structures work underneath the hood, so we talked about hash tables today. Guy and I built a hash table in JavaScript, which is about the worst idea you can do because JavaScript's basically built on hash tables anyway, but we built our own. So it was quite fun. We did that. And we also built some other ones like skip lists and things like that. It was a joy. We've done some interesting stuff on there, and you can find that series actually over on our YouTube channel. Again, the link to that is down below here as well. So feel free to check that out. I want to continue it. I also plan on working on our Evercraft kata that we started up, and the other project we're going to be working on in the short term. So of the four we've got, so that's the inefficient data structures in JavaScript, the Evercraft kata that we're working on, there's this, and then there is Interactive 7, which is giving chat, Twitch chat, control of the Final Fantasy VII game while a streamer is playing it. So those are the things we're planning on working on in the short term. So should all be good. I hope you're all looking forward to it. I know I am. I want to do a couple of things. We're going to raid, so don't go anywhere. I'm going to take you over to another stream that is very fun. But before I do, I want to roll our credits because we've got a bunch of people to thank today. We will be back on Saturday, by the way, and subtract 2 hours from the current time, and that's when we'll be live. I want to thank Stool Penner for hanging out and being our great moderator for the day. I want to thank all these wonderful people who followed us. So if you are one of those wonderful people that clicked that follow button, thank you very much. If you're not, and you aren't following, I'd recommend you click that button, as all of these smart individuals did. And to our new subs, because we got a bunch of gifted subs, I know I thanked each one of you, but thank you for joining our community. We look forward to seeing all of your Chattosauruses all around. So take care. Pudding, welcome. And you are welcome. Thanks everybody for hanging out today. I had a fantastic stream. I thought it was very fun. We did some interesting stuff. And I look forward to seeing you all on Saturday. So on Saturday, we will start at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. That is about 1700 UTC. So if you look at your clock, subtract 2 hours, that's roughly speaking the start time on Saturdays. So thank you all for hanging out today. Hopefully you enjoyed some of what we're building. If you are one of the individuals that is interested in working on this project, feel free to head over to our GitHub page at github.com/devchatter and take a look at the code. You can send us pull requests. You can add issues to the backlog as suggestions for things. I think that's open. If it's not, just ping me on Discord and yell at me and tell me that it's not open. But I think I made all that stuff public so that you can actually give us some feedback on what you want to see in there, or send us pull requests for anything that you think we should be doing differently. I look forward to seeing you all then, so take care, enjoy the rest of your week, happy coding, and have a good one.